Hey everyone, welcome back. You know that feeling when you're just like drowning in yeses, like you're stretched so thin you could just snap?
Oh, tell me about it.
We're diving deep into this today because saying no can be like the hardest thing ever.
It really can.
We've got the art of saying no, boundaries and balance to guide us, and honestly, I need all the help I can get. Even just the title Boundaries and Balance makes me feel like I should be wearing yoga pants and drinking green smoothies.
Right, like instantly calmer.
But really, let's get real. Why is it so hard to say no? Is it just me?
That's definitely not just you. The source digs into the psychology of it, and it's fascinating, actually. It's like we're wired to please, you know?
Oh, yeah, big time.
So there's that fear of disappointing people, the guilt trip that comes along with it. Like we suddenly become the bad guy if we're not constantly saying yes to everything.
The guilt is real. I mean, I've been there so many times. But then I end up feeling resentful, stressed. Is that really helping anyone in the long run?
Right, exactly. And that's where the source really emphasizes this idea of boundaries.
Okay, boundaries. I feel like that word gets thrown around a lot, but honestly, it always sounded kind of vague to me. Like mystical force field vibes.
It's like this magical solution we're supposed to just know how to do.
Exactly. So break it down for me. What are boundaries in practical terms?
Basically, there are these guidelines we set for ourselves. Not walls to shut people out or anything, but more like ways to protect our time, our energy, our mental well-being. It's like saying, hey, this is what I can realistically handle right now.
So it's not just about saying no to the request itself, but more about being clear on what you can actually manage?
Precisely.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light here. But let's be honest, how do you actually tell someone no without turning into a puddle of guilt? Any tips from the source?
Oh, for sure. First off, no is a complete sentence. You don't have to over-explain or apologize, just no.
Wow, powerful. So simple, but like mind-blowing.
Right. And then if possible, try offering an alternative.
Yeah.
So instead of just shutting down a request, you're saying, hey, I can't do this specific thing, but how about this instead?
Ooh, I like that. You're not just saying no, you're offering a solution that works for you. Okay, that's clever. But what about when it's not like a work thing? What if it's a favor someone's asking, like something you feel obligated to do, even if it's going to drain you?
The source talks about this a lot. Because, yeah, those are tough. But remember, saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It just means you're prioritizing your well-being, which, let's be honest, is important for everyone involved.
So true. If I'm running on fumes, I'm not good to anyone.
Exactly. And sometimes the best way to say no is actually to buy yourself some time.
Ooh, tell me more about this time-buying tactic.
They call it the not now approach.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling pressured, instead of immediately saying yes or no, you just say, let me think about it and get back to you.
Okay, that's smart. But wouldn't that make me seem kind of wishy-washy, like I'm avoiding giving a straight answer?
Not necessarily. It's more about making a considered decision, not a rushed one. The source gives some great examples of how to use not now effectively.
Okay, so clear no's, strategic alternatives, and the not now delay tactic. I'm already feeling more equipped, but there's got to be more to it than just the words, right? Like, what about that internal struggle, the guilt?
Oh, absolutely. And the source is big on self-compassion. You are not responsible for everyone else's happiness.
Yeah.
It's okay to prioritize your needs.
That is so much easier said than done, though, right? Like, intellectually, I get it, but...
It takes practice, definitely.
Yeah.
But the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Okay, so I'm ready for some real-world proof that this works. Did the source have any stories about how saying no actually plays out in someone's life?
There's this one story that really resonated with me about this person who used to be a chronic yes person. Always overcommitting, burning out. They hit a wall and decided, okay, I have to try this boundary thing.
Oh, man, I feel that. The fear of what'll happen when you finally say no is so real. What happened in the story? Did everyone abandon them?
Actually, something super interesting happened. People started respecting them more.
Wait, what? Seriously? I'd expect people to be annoyed, not impressed.
It seems counterintuitive, right? But think about it. When you set boundaries, you're showing that you value your time and energy. And that can actually make people respect you more.
That's so interesting. It's like by saying no to some things, you're actually showing that your yes means more when you do give it.
Exactly. And the story goes on. Once they started saying no to things that didn't align with their priorities, they had more time and energy for what truly mattered to them. Their relationships actually improved.
Oh, talk about a testament to the power of boundaries.
Right. It's not about being selfish. It's about creating a more sustainable way of living for everyone involved.
I am so into this. I'm starting to see how saying no isn't this negative, scary thing, but actually a way to be more authentic, both for ourselves and the people we care about.
That's the heart of it, really.
Okay, this is giving me so much to think about. We've covered a lot of ground already, but I'm guessing there's still more to unpack.
Oh, yeah. We've only just scratched the surface.
Okay, I'm still processing that story from part one. It's wild how saying no can lead to more respect and even like a better life overall. But I gotta admit, that fear of disappointing people, it's intense. How do we actually push past that and start setting those boundaries?
You're right that fear is a huge hurdle for a lot of people. The source breaks it down really well, and it all boils down to understanding why we're so afraid in the first place. Are we trying to maintain a certain image? Are we avoiding conflict? Or maybe it stems from some deeper insecurities.
Whoa, okay, getting deep here. It's not just about the situation itself, but like all the baggage we bring to it, huh? So how do we even begin to unpack that?
The source suggests reframing how we view no. Instead of seeing it as this negative thing, this rejection, think of it as a way to honor your own needs and priorities. Like protecting your energy and time so you can show up as your best self.
I'm liking this mindset shift already. But what about in the workplace? Saying no to your boss or colleagues feels like walking on eggshells. Does the source have any advice for navigating that?
It definitely needs a bit more finesse. The source recommends being strategic with your no's. Instead of just flat out refusing, try offering up alternative solutions or suggesting a different time frame. Like if your boss wants you to take on a new project but you're swamped, you could say, I'd love to help with that, but with my current deadlines, I wouldn't be able to give it the attention it deserves. Could we maybe revisit this in a couple of weeks?
That's a good strategy. You're acknowledging their request, but also setting a clear boundary. But what if it's something super urgent and there's absolutely no way you can do it? Does the source address those situations?
For sure. It stresses clear communication and using assertive but respectful language. You can say something like, I understand this is a priority, but I'm at capacity right now. Would it be possible to delegate this to someone else? Or maybe adjust the deadline to make the workload more manageable?
Okay, so it's about being direct but not dismissive. Makes sense. But let's be real, some workplaces can be super demanding. What if they see setting boundaries as a sign of weakness?
That's a real concern, and it really depends on the company culture. But here's the thing, the source points out that constantly overworking and burning yourself out actually makes you less productive in the long run. So by setting those boundaries, you're actually protecting your ability to do your best work.
That's a good point. It's about sustainability, not shirking responsibility. What about in our personal lives, though? Friends and family can be just as bad at pushing our buttons. Any tips from the source on how to set boundaries with them?
Totally. The source reminds us that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, and sometimes setting boundaries is the best way to preserve those relationships. It comes down to being honest about your needs and limitations, even when it's hard.
So having those tough conversations, but in a way that's loving and respectful, it sounds like that could actually make the relationship stronger.
Exactly. And the source gives a really helpful tip for those conversations. Focus on the I perspective. So instead of saying you're asking too much, you could try, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now and need to prioritize self-care.
Ooh, that's a good one. It's less accusatory, more about owning your own experience. I like it. But what about those recurring requests that keep popping up? Like that friend who always asks you to help them move, or the family member who expects you to babysit every weekend.
The source is very clear on that it's all about consistency. Once you set a boundary, stick to it. I know it's tempting to cave when the guilt trips start flying, but remember, you're not helping anyone by overextending yourself all the time.
It's true, like we talked about before, constantly saying yes to avoid discomfort actually hurts everyone in the end. But what if people get upset or offended when you do start setting those boundaries?
It happens. The source acknowledges that it can be tough.
Yeah.
But it also reminds us that their reaction is not our responsibility.
Wait, so their meltdown doesn't have to become my meltdown? That's strangely comforting.
Exactly. And remember, the people who genuinely care about you, they'll eventually come around and respect your boundaries. It might take some time and some awkward conversations, but in the end, healthy relationships are built on mutual respect and understanding, not on one person constantly sacrificing their needs.
This is all so insightful. I'm really starting to understand how saying no isn't selfish. It's actually a way to create healthier and more sustainable relationships.
That's the key takeaway here. And the source offers a little encouragement for anyone who's just starting out on this journey. Be patient with yourself and celebrate your wins. Every time you successfully set a boundary, acknowledge that effort.
I love that it's about progress, not perfection. So we've talked about reframing no, communicating assertively, focusing on the I perspective, staying consistent, and not taking on other people's reactions. That's a lot to take in. Any final thoughts from the source before we head to part 3?
The source emphasizes that setting boundaries isn't a one-time thing, it's a continuous process. It's about learning to really tune in to your own needs and honoring them, even when it's challenging. And remember, you deserve a life that feels genuine and aligned with your values.
This conversation has been so valuable. We've gone from feeling totally overwhelmed by all the shoulds to feeling empowered to choose what truly matters.
It's amazing how much power a simple no can have.
So true. But I'm sensing there's still more to explore. On to part 3.
You bet. We'll be diving into how saying no actually frees us up to say a more powerful yes to the things that truly light us up.
Okay, so we've gotten pretty good at saying no now, right? At least we've got the tools, we've learned some strategies. But the source keeping talking about saying no as a path to like a more intentional life. And honestly, I'm still wrapping my head around that. It's not just about avoiding stuff, is it? It's about actually choosing what we want more of.
You got it. And that's where the whole power of yes comes in. This isn't about becoming some kind of hermit who says no to everything, right?
Right, right.
It's more like clearing out all the clutter so we can really, truly say yes to the stuff that really matters, you know, the things that light us up, the things that align with our values, our big goals.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you on that. But I gotta admit, I'm still kind of skeptical. I get that saying no can reduce stress and all that, but how does it connect to, like, finding more purpose?
Yeah.
Isn't saying yes to new opportunities how we grow and discover cool stuff?
It's all about finding that sweet spot, that balance. The source isn't saying to never try anything new, not at all.
Okay, good.
It's more about realizing that if our energy is constantly scattered, we're not really present for anything. Like, really think about it. If you said yes to every single social invite, every work project, every volunteer gig, would you even have the time or energy to actually enjoy any of it?
That's a really good point. It's like when everything is a priority, nothing actually is.
Exactly.
But how do we actually, like, put that into practice? How do we figure out what deserves a heck yes and what's just a meh, I guess?
Well, the source suggests this really cool exercise. Picture your ideal week. Don't just focus on what you're doing, but more on how you're feeling. Are you energized, creative, connected to your loved ones, all that good stuff?
Okay, yeah.
Then take a look at your actual schedule. Are your commitments moving you towards that vision, or are they taking you further away?
Whoa, that's actually a really powerful visualization. I can already see where I'm overcommitting to things that honestly don't even matter that much.
Right. We all do it.
But what about the stuff I actually have to do? Like work, errands, family obligations? Where does intentional living even fit into all of that?
The source acknowledges that we all have those responsibilities. Absolutely. It's not about running away from them. It's about shifting our perspective. Can you find ways to make those have-tos a little bit more enjoyable? Can you delegate, ask for help? And super importantly, can you actually schedule in time for things that recharge you, even if it's just for like 15 minutes a day?
I love that. It's not about magically erasing the shoulds. It's about being more intentional with how we do everything.
That's it.
But let's talk about those recharging activities for a second, because honestly, finding time for that stuff can feel impossible. Any tips from the source on how to actually make it happen?
The source is big on this. Treat those activities with the same importance as, say, a work meeting or a doctor's appointment. Actually block out time in your calendar for them. And this is key. Don't wait for a free moment to magically appear.
Because that never happens.
Right. Schedule it in, even if it means saying no to something else.
Okay, that's a tough one, but I get it. If we wait for permission to take care of ourselves, we'll be waiting forever.
So true.
So intentional yeses to things that align with our values, intentional scheduling of time for ourselves, it's like we're taking back control of our lives, you know.
Exactly. And the source reminds us this isn't about some perfect, picture-perfect life, right? It's about making progress, not being perfect. Some days you'll totally rock it, some days you won't, and that's totally fine.
That's good to hear, because life definitely throws us curveballs. But I'm really starting to see how saying no isn't just about boundaries, it's about reclaiming our agency. It's about choosing how we spend our time and energy instead of letting guilt or outside pressure dictate everything.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
It's about living authentically on your own terms. And the source actually recommends some really awesome resources for anyone who wants to dive even deeper into this.
Ooh, I bet our listeners would love to hear about those. What are some of the recommendations?
They specifically mention essentialism, the disciplined pursuit of less by Greg McKeown, which is all about prioritizing the important stuff over the not so important stuff. And then there's the desire map, a guide to creating goals with soul by Danielle Laporte,
Wow.
which is all about aligning your goals with how you actually want to feel.
Those sound like great places to start for anyone who wants to create a more intentional, fulfilling life.
Absolutely. And remember, this is a journey, not a destination. Be kind to yourself, celebrate your progress, and just keep experimenting until you find what works best for you.
This whole deep dive has been so amazing. We've come such a long way from feeling totally overwhelmed by all the shoulds to actually feeling empowered to choose what truly matters.
It's incredible how much a simple no can change everything.
So true. As you all head back out into the world, remember this. Saying no is not selfish. It's an act of self-care. And by creating space for yourselves, you're actually creating space for a more authentic, joyful, purpose-driven life.
We can't wait to hear about all the amazing things you accomplish when you start saying yes to the things that truly matter.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep saying yes to a life you love.